Bonjour, it's Théo. Welcome to Spill the French Tea, our Sunday series where we talk about French people, French culture, and all the drama around it. And we are in a time of drama. A few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I made a video about the political context in France. After the European elections, the President Macron decided to dissolve the Assemblée Nationale, the parliament. And if you're watching this video the Sunday I'm posting it, it was today the first turn of the Législatives election. I'm filming this video the day before, so I don't know which party is winning. But in today's video, we're gonna talk about these elections and what are the sondages, the polls about which party, which type of candidate will be the possible winners. First, to give you some context, let me tell you what is the Législative. It's the name given for the election of the députés, the people in the Assemblée Nationale, which is a part of the parliament with the Senate. We as people don't directly elect the Senate, but we elect the députés. Usually we do it every 5 years, just after the election of the president. But when the president decides to dissolve the Assemblée, he is shuffling the cards again. So the day you're watching this video, we are voting for a député, and we are voting in our circonscription. A circonscription is a specific type of district that is used for the elections. It's about the geography, but also the number of people in each circonscription. And you will vote for your district. Each winner will have a seat in the Assemblée Nationale. A circonscription equals 1 seat. So it's not like the presidential election, we don't have just one winner at the end, but 577, the number of circonscriptions, so the number of seats in the Assemblée Nationale. So it means that the political parties are trying to have the biggest number of seats in the parliament. But the big issue of the legislative is that the group that has the most seats in the Assemblée will be the group that's gonna give the prime minister. The prime minister has to be from the group of the majority. In 2022, the group of Macron has won the biggest number of seats. But it won't be the case right now, according to the polls. We're gonna see the polls just after in this video. So it's mostly certain that the government of Macron will be dismissed and that another party will choose a new prime minister, so a new government, because the prime minister is the head of the government. It will be what we call a cohabitation, like a co-living, and it means that the president will have to work with a government that is not with him. And it will create a lot of drama. And some parties that were not the biggest ones a few years ago are in position to be a possible winner. The Rassemblement National, the far-right party, will probably be at the top of a lot of circonscriptions, so we can possibly have a prime minister from the Rassemblement National. But we will know it at the end of the second turn, because the elections are made in 2 turns, the premier tour and the second tour. First turn and second turn. The first turn is today, the day you're watching this video. And to be on the second turn, 1 week after, you have to be in the 2 first positions of the list in your circonscription. Or sometimes we can also have like 3 or 4 candidates in the second turn. If you want to be in the second turn and you are not in the first 2 positions, you need to get a number of votings equals to 12.5% of the registered people that can vote. So sometimes we can have 3 or 4 candidates at the second turn, but usually it's just 2 candidates, the first 2 ones. So what are saying the polls, the sondage in French? I'm watching right now some polls. I'm on Les Echos, which is a famous newspaper, and you can see like an overview. 3 main parties on this poll. The Rassemblement National, the far-right parties, can possibly have 37%, which is extremely big. It's more than the other parties, and it's like twice the number of seats that they had 2 years ago in 2022. Then we have the Left Union, the Nouveau Front Populaire. Many parties of the left created a union against the far right. They could get 28%. It's like almost the same as 2 years ago. But the presidential party, called Renaissance, will only have 20%, so he won't be able to govern correctly for Macron. And it's just the third parties in this list, so it will be a big change for Macron and his party. On this poll that I found in Huffington Post, you can see the number of seats that are distributed between all the parties. In gray, you have the far right. In red, on the left, it's the left union. In blue, it's another type of right that is less powerful than 40 years ago, for example, where it was like the main party. And in yellow, one of the most important, it's the presidential party. So you can see that in 2022, the yellow was the main part with 250 seats in the parliament, and they are going down in the polls to 94 only. 2 years ago, it was still not a majority, but it was still the biggest party in the parliament, so they could have a lot of power, and they could, for example, make a union with the right, the Républicains, to make their laws get voted. But if the reality follows the predictions this year, the president won't be able to govern properly. It will be one of the first time that the president is the loser of the legislative election. From 250 seats to only 94, that's terrible for the president. So that was the sondage, the polls for the first turn, but many things can change with the second turn in 1 week, because according to the candidates, the list, the political parties that are the 2 last ones in the second turn, the losing candidates will give some intention. They will tell their people to vote for this one or this one. A few years ago, many people made what we call a front républicain, like a Republican front, which means that when the far right was at the second turn, all the other parties were telling to vote for the other one against the far right, to not let the far right get some seats in the parliament. This year, I'm not sure many people will do it. For example, this year, if we have a second turn with the Nouveau Front Populaire, the left union, against the far right, the Rassemblement National, maybe Macron won't tell to vote for this one or this one. He will just stay silent. Because during all the campaign, he was criticizing both, so maybe he won't say anything. On the other hand, if it's a match between Macron party and the far right, it's possible that the left union will say to vote Macron instead of the far right, as they did in 2022 for the presidential election between Macron and Marine Le Pen. But if Macron is not saying to support the left against the far right, maybe the left won't support Macron and it won't be the Front Républicain anymore. That is the big risk that can occur during these elections. Many people could just stay silent for the second turn. We still don't know. We will know in 1 week. So that was the news for this time, for today. I'm recording this video on Saturday before the first turn of the election, so I'm gonna see if the polls are right. Tell me in the comments if you have any questions. I will make other videos about the elections because it's like a big moment in the French history, maybe. So give me all your questions in the comments. And tell me if you like this type of video that I do every Sunday where I talk about France. I would love to talk more about the French news, so don't hesitate to tell me if you like this type of things or if you need to learn more about the French culture and the news in France. And of course, if you want to explore Paris and discover the French way of life in general, don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I post every single day, so see you tomorrow.